for Speakeasy with Geri Ellzey.
Hi, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to be with you on this Monday, and I want to thank my good friend Nellie Kate for stepping in for me last Thursday and Friday. I want to welcome from Montgomery, Tom Hinds. He is director of the Montgomery Symphony, and I just want to find out all about the Montgomery Symphony and the new Davis Theater, and I want to find out about Tom. I want you just to start back from, I don't know, we won't go back completely to childhood, but, you know,
yes,
when did you, I know, when did you get interested in music? Was it at a young age?
Well, no, actually it was a very late age. I grew up in a big family, and not a terribly wealthy family. There was no real music of any sort going on. It was just a regular family, a big one, you know, living in the middle of a city. And I guess I was about 15, maybe 16, and I was this little troublemaking kid in the back of the class, and teacher announced to us that we were going to go to a children's concert. And well, I sat back, and you know, that sounded like one of the all-time bores. I mean, that really sounded, sounded bad. So, but the teacher informed me in no uncertain terms that if she heard one peep out of me, I was in big trouble. And so we went to the concert, and I settled back in my chair, determined to be bored. And the concert began, and now, mind you, I'd never heard classical music, I'd never seen an orchestra before, absolutely nothing. And I watched down there, and all these people with all these instruments tootling away like this, you know, and there was some silly-looking character up there flapping his arms. I just got taken away by it. I didn't know what I was hearing, but I knew that I was going to do that, you know, so it was a big, you know, kind of unusual. I wasn't brought up with it. I ran into it for the first time and was sold immediately. And I just took it from there. And
where did you go from there? What did you do?
Well,
how do you start when you're 15 years old and your family doesn't have the background?
Well, I didn't know what to do, but we did have a band, and I walked in and informed the band director. I was not one of the most retiring of children. And I walked in and I informed the band director that I was going to play in his band. And he said, "Oh, well, what do you play?" And I said, I didn't know. It hadn't occurred to me really, and the only instruments that I knew the names of were trumpet and drums, and I knew I didn't want to just hit something, so I said trumpet. He said, "Well, have you got a trumpet?" And I said, "No." He says, "Well, you have to have a trumpet before you can play in the band." I said, "Okay." Now, this is a problem. I found some kid who had dropped out of band. He was probably one of the original entrepreneurs of my high school class. He rented his what I thought was a trumpet, you know, for $10 a week. And I went without my milk money and showed up with this, next couple of days later, I showed up in the band director's office, and I said, "I got a trumpet." And he said, "That's a cornet." I said, "I got a cornet, and I'm going to play in the band." He says, "All right, you're on."
So that's where you started, with the cornet.
I started with cornet, and that was too easy. After about a year, I was sitting at the top of the section, so he told me I should get a trombone. So I got a trombone. At the end of that year, I was sitting in the top of that section, and he told me that I should play baritone horn. I said, because it fingers like a trumpet and has a mouthpiece like a trombone. I said, fine. And I came in one Friday and picked up the case. He was on the telephone. He pointed to a case. And I picked the instrument up, took it home, opened it up, and I picked up the wrong case. I picked up a bassoon, and so I played around with it for a while, and when I came back on Monday, I could sort of tootle around a little. He said, "Why don't you stay on the bassoon?" I said, "Okay." And I became a professional bassoonist.
And loved the bassoon.
Loved it. Yeah, when I was about 20, I guess, I saw my first opportunity to really watch excellent conductors. I went up to Oberlin Conservatory and played in an opera theater there. And some of the conductors there were people like Leonard Slatkin, who was a principal guest conductor with the Chicago Symphony, and Michael Cherry, who at the time was conducting at Cleveland, and Herb Grossman, who was a big opera man up in New York. And I decided that's what I wanted to do, but it was impressed upon me at an early age that I didn't know anything. I didn't have any background, whatever. So I went into playing. I made a career as a bassoon player, learned the repertoire, learned the routine, the daily routine, watched conductors for years and years and years. And when I thought I was ready, I picked up a stick, announced that I would be a conductor, endured the giggles of my colleagues, and little by little started. Got my first orchestra up in Tennessee a couple years ago, and came down.
Well, I certainly, I know it, and I enjoyed it too. I loved it. A lot of things happened by chance in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Hinds is our guest today. He is from Montgomery, and he conducts the Montgomery Symphony that will open the season this fall, and we'll find out when and what kind of a season it will be, what you can expect. And we're just lucky to have it so close and nearby, 45 minutes away from Selma, and really the outlying areas are not that far away either. Now, about conducting, where do you start to learn to conduct?
Oh, boy. I should preface it by saying that conducting looks enormously more easy than it is. It looks like it would be a simple thing. You stand up here and you wave the stick till they stop playing, then you go home.
You've got a lot of people depending on you to bring them in.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
The conductor is the point from which everybody is playing. He gives you the tempo and the style. It is such a complicated thing to play classical music, and it requires such focused attention that you simply have to have somebody up there that is coordinating everything that's going on.
Let me ask you something, Tom. In classical music, there is no, like, you know, in pop, you can deviate and, you know, do very much what you want. Yeah. You don't do that in classical music, do you?
Not much, no. In the real modern works, sometimes you have aleatoric, you have sort of improvisatory sections. But basically, the closest to improvisation is when you take the notes that are written and you maybe, depending on how you phrase it, you know, which notes will get a little bit more emphasis, where you'll slow it down just a little bit. It all has to do with what we call interpretation of the piece. But basically, no, there's no.
I have learned with just singing with the Messiah each year in Selma that each conductor does maybe has a faster tempo than the other, or maybe plays will make things staccato, where some people will make them legato and smooth. So you do have some freedom there, don't you?
Certainly. The composers, the musical notation, the way you write it down is limited. There is not really a way to write down everything that goes on. You would have, with the notation we have, it's what it can convey to the musicians is limited. The rest of it has to, the conductor will look at it, determine what tempo will make it sound best, what style of playing will make it sound best. It gets very complicated. All the things that go into it.
Right, and you have to prepare a lot behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, right now I'm working on the music for our February concert. I mean, it's, you work that far in advance. 90% of what a conductor does, the audience and the orchestra never sees. You're at home, you're studying the piece so that you, basically when you're conducting, you know what everybody, what all 100 or 80 or 100 people are supposed to be doing.
Would you say maybe that it lives, you know, it's within you and you know,
yeah.
you just
it gets
know
to the point. It gets to the point where it feels like not so much that you're waving a stick at musicians who are playing Beethoven's Fifth, for example, which we're doing next year. It feels like you're just doing Beethoven's Fifth.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to have your body, your mind is doing the piece of music. Musicians pick up on it, and it's sort of what it feels like is the energy goes out, hits the musicians, and goes back to the audience.
I see. Is this the first season for the Montgomery Symphony?
The first season?
Has it been there
No,
before?
I think it's been there for about 5 years. It's a very, very newly formed group for a city that size.
How did you go about getting your group together?
Well, I didn't get it together. It was gotten together years ago. But they decided they needed a new conductor, and they announced that they would have auditions. They looked at all the applications that came in and chose, I think, 5 people, 5 conductors. Each conductor was given a concert in not this past season, but the season before, and they sat back and thought about it and just picked the one they liked the best.
And are you happy about coming to Montgomery?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. I see an enormous development in the arts in this area going on right now. A lot of people that have been unaware of the arts are discovering how important, how nice it can be. They're discovering something that a lot of people just take for granted, the classical arts. And what with the Shakespeare Festival up in that's to be moved to Montgomery, and the the symphony coming up like this.
Exciting.
It's just the museum in Montgomery. Everything's just blossoming there. I have a feeling I've caught an orchestra in exactly the right time. I think it's really going to become
Again.
Again, yes.
You know, just by chance.
Right.
Okay, the Davis Theater. Is
Yes.
this? You said this is where you'll be doing most of the concerts?
Right. Now, this used to be called the Paramount Movie Theater. Mrs. Davis.
Is it pretty?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. They've renovated the interior. It's about 1,250 seats. It's absolutely gorgeous. We do our concerts there now. It's the Davis
Okay.
Theater.
When we come back, I want to talk to him about the subscriptions and, you know, how you can come to the concerts this fall. We'll be right back. Excuse me, I go to speak and, you know, Tom Hinds is our guest today. He's conductor of the Montgomery Symphony, and I wanted to find out how people, is it subscribed? Is that the way you...
Sure. In other words, you can buy a season ticket.
Uh-huh.
You can buy a season ticket that will allow you into all the concerts in a given year.
How many concerts?
We have 4 concerts, 4 subscription concerts, a Christmas concert. I think we've got a children's concert and a couple of pops concerts.
Okay. But you prefer the classical?
Yes. Well, it's the most complicated. It's the deepest. It's the most moving once you get into it. Yeah, I like it better.
All right. Who's your favorite composer?
That's hard. I think maybe Mozart or Bartok or something like that. Yeah.
Any particular period in history, you know? Romantic or Renaissance or Gothic?
That's hard. Probably the Romantic.
You just like it all?
Yeah, well, I like the best of all of them. Are you talking about the best, the medieval stuff with Josquin des Prez or Mozart in the classical era, or Beethoven and Brahms and Romantic, Stravinsky and Bartok in the 20th century? If you talk about the great music, it's almost impossible to pick a favorite.
Okay, Tom, what do you do for fun?
Do I do for fun? Music. I mean, I'm one of these very odd people that has made a career out of doing what he would do just out of the love of it. But I do a lot of reading. I'm reading a lot of nonfiction these days.
You really do find time to do that?
Not much, no, but a little.
Okay.
But mostly it's music.
And when you work, I don't know, I'm always interested in this. Do you work at night, late into the night? Or do you work, you do?
Yeah, now, a musician is a performer, and the performances happen in the evenings, so your whole sleep schedule gets turned around a little bit. I usually work until probably, 1 or 1:30 in the morning, and then, you know. But I don't, it's not like I live this wild, profligate life. It's just, you know, I mean, I sleep as much as anybody. I just sleep a little later.
If you had a fantasy, as far as music is concerned, do you have fantasies about music?
Oh, not in the way most people would imagine. Someday I want to be a conductor that is really is excellent, like on the level of, I don't know, Bernstein or Von Karajan or someone like that. That's the kind of fantasies. You know, I like to think someday that I'll be that good. As far as conducting this orchestra or that orchestra, if I get that good, I'll have orchestras like that. I have plenty to do in Montgomery.
That's right, for right now anyway.
Right now.
And then evidently, as it's been going along over the years, something will just deviate a little bit, and there you go.
Well, something will come up. I'll be there for at least 3 years. My contract is a 3-year contract. Then we'll see. You know, I'll undoubtedly do some guest conducting. Things will happen. Things will happen, I'm sure.
That's a good attitude to have, too.
Sure.
I certainly believe in that. Thank you so much, Tom
My
Hinds.
pleasure, thank you.
And you must subscribe to the Montgomery Symphony this fall season. And do they just call the Davis Theater?
You should call the Montgomery Symphony Orchestra, and that has a number. I think you need to call the operator, but the operator knows the number. She's very good about things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Here is our thought for the day. Reputation versus character. Reputation is the name you have, not necessarily the character you are. It is what people think of you, not always what you know yourself to be. It glories in a world of vanities, and how vain a false reputation is. As Josh Billings stated, it can be obtained by giving publicly and stealing privately. Reputation, of course, is valuable, but character is priceless. And from William Shakespeare, here's what he said: reputation is an idle and most false imposition, oft got without merit and lost without deserving. That's a lot to think about today, and I especially enjoyed Tom Hinds.